Hello, this is Chelsea Wilkinson, a patient and family specialist at Moffitt Cancer Center. I'm here to present to you today a process improvement proposal for the patient education department, specifically relating to the WALRAX project. I believe that this proposal will increase our efficiency and efficacy in being able to reach our patients and meet client needs. And I believe that working on this project will be able to more effectively develop teamwork and schedule for approaching future projects as well. So I'm going to direct you to this PowerPoint here. All right, here we go. So, as I said, my project focuses on the patient education department and specifically the patient education material that's distributed throughout the hospital. So I felt like to accurately discuss the needs that we have in the different buildings in the hospital, then I would go into a little background about how patient education plays into Moffitt standards and a little bit more about what those are in terms of what it means for us. We have this picture here to kind of give you all a lay of the land of the areas that we've been servicing as far as patient education materials go. As you know, since we've opened our doors in October of 1987, we've grown from about 400 employees and 300,000 square feet to over 4,200 employees, 800 volunteers, and over 2 million square feet and still expanding. So it's really been an amazing journey and one that we're very fortunate to all take part of. That being said, because the growth has been so quick and because the patient needs are ever evolving as technology changes and as our resources change, we feel that patient education is overdue for a new look on the needs that we have to be able to meet the needs of our patients. So, and Moffitt, just a few facts about Moffitt Cancer Center and definitely ones that we keep in mind as we move forward on this project. Here at Moffitt, we're affiliated, as you know, with the National Cancer Institute, or NCI, and we're one of only 41 NCI designated comprehensive cancer centers in the United States, and we're also the only one in Florida. And what that means basically is that we have to work pretty hard for that designation and to keep it, which ensures a high standard of care for our patients. So we're consistently being measured in the highest standard of care available in the nationally ranked institutions. And then I'd also like to mention, which I'll discuss with a little more detail later, the fact that there's a 30% prognosis outcome improvement with patient education information dispersal within the hospital. And we'll discuss the study a bit more later, but I just want to highlight the fact that there is a clinically significant opportunity to make a positive impact in the lives of patients. So, okay, so as far as our current situation, so given that we know patient education and patient education materials are important to the treatment and care of a patient, the need arises then for a mechanism by which we communicate and by which we deliver that education material to the patients. Now, here at Moffitt, we have 22 separate clinics that operate basically independently. And as a patient and family specialist, our job is to work individually with each clinic to assess what those patient education needs are. And those needs really vary by clinic. Clinics have different management styles, different patient needs, and different perceptions of what patient education can offer to their patients. So that's definitely one aspect of the process improvement is communication with the clinics and just a thorough assessment of what they need. However, we found that one uniform and one consistent theme throughout all of 22 different clinics is that the wall racks in the common patient areas are important in communicating both Moffitt information and clinical information to the patient. So looking at the system that we have in place to deliver that information to the different wall racks, we actually found that there's really next to no system at all. So any schedule or any materials that are refilled on the racks are basically done at random and as noted and as necessary, which creates a lot of dead time because the patient family specialist or the volunteer who is trained on the system will just have to go around all areas of the hospital and see which locations need patient education information, hope that those pamphlets or those brochures are on their cart at any given time, and refill according to what's available, or run back and forth every single time. Currently, the amount of time spent on wall racks is greater than just about any other individual task that a patient family specialist will spend in their any given day in their job. And currently, the volunteers also have the greatest challenge with this task more than any other task. And that's because there really is a demand for a thorough knowledge of just exactly where the wall racks are and what materials go in them. And this is a higher level process that cannot be completed by just any volunteer. Okay, so if we were to develop a system whereby patient education materials can be delivered to all 22 different clinics in a consistent, timely, and relevant fashion, there are a few factors that we would want to gauge the success of our proposal. And the first one of these is time. So like I said, currently the system is very inefficient. There's a lot of going back and forth. There's a lot of incomplete refills that requires us to go around more times than we would otherwise have to. And so a successful system would cut down the time that we would need to spend on the wall racks in a given day, in a given week. And it would also cut down the time that we would need to spend training the volunteers, because currently there is no SOP so that a volunteer could pick up the wall rack card and head over to the wall racks and know exactly what they're supposed to do and exactly what information is supposed to go where. Which brings me to my next point, which is the content. So also, content is a big factor. We want to make sure that the information that's reaching each clinic is relevant to that clinic. A perfect example would be information on stomach cancer in the hematology clinic, or information about melanoma in the thoracic clinic. Things like this happen when, as I said, there's no SOP, and what happens is we spend a lot of time correcting errors that volunteers make because we train them on how to fill the wall racks, but we don't necessarily have a system for what items go in which wall racks. And then the last one is space. We want to make the most use of the resources that we have and the space that we have. And we want to make sure that the space that's being utilized by patient education is being used efficiently and effectively to actually reach our patients. So one component of this would be tracking patient education material over time to determine how often we need to visit each location, and what brochures are popular in those locations, so that we can kind of weed out ones that, for example, we don't have to visit, we don't have to refill for 6 months, or we don't have to fill for that year, something like that. All right, so quick analysis of the alternatives. We've come up with 4 different alternatives for this wall rack solution for a system. The first one would be a paper system, which would look something like a binder. We would divide that binder up into 22 different tabs, or perhaps a little more concisely just by general area within the hospital, so that we could organize routes easily. And then we would also document what materials go in which areas, and have information about that in written format, in a printed format, in a binder. And so the volunteer could just grab a worksheet for that location, stick it on a clipboard, take it with them in the cart, and then check off one by one what they've refilled and what they haven't. And an example for that has been provided in your handout. So the other alternatives are somewhat similar to this. The other one would be, instead of using a paper copy, using an iPad. That way they could edit the document in real time, and there wouldn't be any lag or waste in time as far as keying in the materials that were found, that weren't found, that are high volume or low volume, and materials that were missed the first time around that needed to be added to the database entirely. So it would just really speed up the process. And the only real downside to this suggestion would be that the iPad's an expensive piece of equipment, and to have it out in the hospital on a daily basis with a volunteer, which is oftentimes either a college student or a high school student, can be a little bit risky, and can pose some financial risk on the patient library's part. The other solution, or the third solution that we would have, is a computer database. So no paper will be wasted. There won't be any lag time in inputting the data, or in printing data that is now irrelevant, because it's as updated as possible. But we suspect that this actually will create more lag time than all the other options mentioned so far, just because the volunteer or the specialist will have to have access to a computer before and after the wall racks project. And it essentially creates an extra step for them before they begin their trip, as opposed to when the specialist is putting together the binder. So on that front, it does pose some challenges, although it can be effective as far as saving space and saving paper as well. And then the last one would be to do nothing, which we really believe represents a large opportunity cost for Moffitt and for the patients and the clinical staff, as well as the education department. Our strategic option that we suggest is to go with the iPad option, whereby the volunteer can be trained to update the system in real time, and to edit the document right there in Google Docs or a cloud type format, and can also be trained to transpose that document from the cloud onto a hard drive database, for processing. So a few risks and benefits to these options, or to this option. So here we have a few benefits. I'll call your attention to the increased patient compliance, 46%, that second column there. And then more towards the end, a 34% increase in preventative screenings and 36% medication adherence. And that last column there, which we kind of referenced